You are joining Making a Difference with Melissa Clark, a new show that shares the compelling stories and voices of well-known and everyday people who change the world in big and small ways. Enjoy our guests, call in, or just listen to be inspired. For this show was made with you in mind. Please join us every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our special guests. And you can listen to our recast at www.melissaclarkshow.com.
You just witnessed celebrity hairstylist by trade and a musician at heart, Mr. Edward Tricomi of the Warren and Tricomi Hair Salon. Hi, thank you so much for joining us here on Making a Difference. I'm Melissa Billy Clark. Edward Tricomi has worked with influential people such as the Rolling Stones to designers Valentino and Ralph Lauren. His salons are spectacular, and so is he. Check it out. We are sitting here with the wonderful Edward Tricomi. I am so excited. This is very personal for me, guys, because I met Edward when I was 19 years old. So that's 21 years ago. He cut my hair and I felt like a rock star. Now, this was before the Tyra Banks show. I mean, this man has turned into something so wonderful throughout these whole years. And I said, once I get into publishing, I'm going to do everything I can to interview him. And I've interviewed him plenty of times. So thank you so much, Mr. Edward Tricomi. Thank you so much for joining us today.
More than welcome. Nice seeing you again.
Yeah,
seeing your face. Yeah, seeing anybody is good.
I know, right?
In these times, like I sound like Keith Richards. I'm glad I'm alive. Yeah, I'm just glad I'm alive.
It's true. How did you handle this pandemic really quick?
I mean, in early March, when it really got bad in the city, we were fortunate enough to have a house upstate New York. So my wife and I headed upstate, and we stayed up here. We've been up here for the last 6 months.
Love it. I'm
So,
glad that you guys are all safe. It's a tough one here.
Yeah, it's tough. And, I started back at work in Manhattan one day a week, which is on Tuesdays. I'm at the Plaza. And then once a month in Greenwich, Connecticut. We have several salons. We have 3 in Manhattan, which is downtown 20th Street, Plaza Hotel, and then 84th and Madison. And then we have Greenwich, Connecticut, and East Hampton.
Oh, wow. And East Hampton as well.
So those 2 shops are doing the best, East Hampton and Greenwich, because everybody left to the suburbs.
That's right.
And a lot of people got out of the city, unfortunately, and it's this, I'm noticing now, from periodically I would go back in, I'm noticing now that there's a slight uptick in the city of more people being there, and traffic is starting to look not totally normalized, but more. It's getting better.
Do you think we're going to have problems after the election, though? I mean, either way, we're
in what respect?
Either way, we're SOL. I mean, if we have Biden, there's going to be problems. If we have Trump, there's going to be problems. Like as far as rioting, I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
This is, I mean, if I have to talk about this, I'll talk about it for a second.
Thank you.
My take on it is this. You can't defund the police. You got to have the police.
Yeah.
But the police need more training. They need the police, unfortunately, when they're out there, they feel like it's them against us as a whole.
Yeah.
And their mentality is sort of set that way. And it's been entrenched for many, many years that way. They have to learn how to be more of a public servant. In other words, customer service is really important. And you can't send the police to like I heard the other day, there was a kid that had autism. They send the police wind up shooting the kid. you can't send a guy with a gun to take care of somebody that has a mental problem. You need a social worker.
Right.
So, so there are things like that the police need more training. They need better customer service as far as them dealing with the public, and unfortunately, when you give somebody complete authority, and they're not used to having that complete authority, and then suddenly they get it, they can abuse it because they don't really understand it. It took me years to learn how to be a good boss. It took me years to learn that. And only with practice and everything else, and believe me, my wife's an educator. She handles schools, and she was in the administration part of the education and writing curriculum. But I learned a lot from Deb, learning how she dealt with kids in schools and things. So it helped me in my job. So police, they need more education, and they have to not feel so adversarial with the public.
Right.
And it's a drag. Think about it. You get stopped by a cop and you're getting a ticket. You did something wrong. Okay, maybe you were speeding. You know what I mean? The encounter is never fun. It's not fun for the police. It's not fun for you. It's not fun for anybody.
Right.
So so there's a lot has to be said there, and a lot of these mistakes or overreaction is because they're nervous. They're afraid they're going to get shot, and I understand that. Listen, we need the police. I am for the police, 100%.
Yes.
But at the same time, there needs more training, and the public also. If you get stopped, don't argue with the police. Chris Rock did a great thing. This is really funny. Chris Rock did a things that you don't do when you get stopped. And it was really, really, really funny. He was making fun at it, but in hindsight, in seriousness, you don't do those things. You don't start arguing with the guy. You guys can even think, okay, give me the ticket. I'll fight it in court.
Right.
You fight it later. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
There's all ways of handling things. So both sides need to, understand each other and work with each other.
Right.
That's all I could say about that.
Thank you very much. Okay.
That makes sense, right?
I love it so much. As long as people don't do anything.
And it doesn't matter who gets in. If Biden gets in or Trump, right? Both sides are screwed up.
We're screwed.
Yeah, we're screwed out of the way. You do, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, no matter which guy is going to get in. And other people say, Trump's so bad, And then you got people who Biden, he's a socialist, and you got the socialist aspect of all of that. I love capitalism, so I'm a capitalist, and I think capitalism has always served people better any day than socialism. But that's my take on it. Right. But I don't usually have these discussions with my friends or anybody because it's so contested these days, and it's so divided that I have friends that are on one side, and I have friends that are on the other side, and I just, stay in the middle with it. I don't get into heavy discussions about this.
Yeah. You're also a Brooklynite. That's
right. I'm a Brooklyn kid, right?
That's right. From Bensonhurst?
Bensonhurst with Ginsburg, right? Same thing. Yeah,
Great.
We're Brooklyn people.
You're also humble, kind, you're generous, and he is a hair genius. He is known as Edward Scissorhands. I love it so much. And here's why. Take a look. Amazing. I love that so much. And you do a nice dry cut, which I like very much.
Right. Right. I help pioneer dry cutting.
Yeah. So for my audio side, we're on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify. Please head over to my YouTube channel so you can see Edward in action, Melissa Billy Clark show. So Edward Tricomi is the owner of Warren and Tricomi Hair Salon in New York City. Like we mentioned before, he has one on Fifth Avenue, Madison, the Plaza Hotel. He's in Greenwich. And
East Hampton.
And in East Hampton. And I go to the one at the Plaza Hotel because it's so beautiful. But I haven't been to any of the other ones. So tell us, when did you first start cutting hair, Edward?
Well, that's a whole story in itself. I was a musician. I play music. I play drums, guitar, piano, all these things. In fact, I showed you around my house a little bit. There's maybe about 10, 15 guitars up in the loft with all my recording equipment and pianos and drums and all this stuff's all up there. So I was a musician, and my sister was a hairstylist, and my cousin. And in fact, I'm writing a series about my aunt. I'll just give you the name. It's called Aunt Paula. And I'm writing a series about her, and my cousin's in it, and he was the first hairdresser in the family. And he was sort of like the real Shampoo in real life. He was amazing, very good looking kid. Yeah. And so I said, wow, he's always around these beautiful girls. I said, yeah, this guys, what a great job here. And my sister worked with him, and they had a salon. And as a spare job on Saturdays, my sister talked me into coming in to do shampoos. And I went in, and I was doing shampoos and things like that. And you know, I liked the job. It was sort of fun. And even though I was still playing music, I was earning extra money. Right. And so I went to school for it, and I graduated school, and I worked. I started, my first job was in Brooklyn in a salon called Charisma. And you got to understand this is 1969 we're talking about. Yeah. So we're talking about 69, and we were so busy. We were doing 20 haircuts a day. It was a tiny shop of about 7 or 8 people. It was incredible. So my first intro into it, I was already very busy, and I was earning really good money. And then I quit, and I went and I worked in the city, and I made like $125 a week. My parents thought I was crazy. Why are you doing it? I said, because socially, see, I always knew this. I said, socially and intellectually, I needed to be in a bigger arena, you know, and not just in Brooklyn. So I started to work in the city, and I worked for a salon called Scene Andre. And Scene Andre was the Studio 54 of its day. Now, how do I explain this to you? The shop was humongous. It was like my salon is at the Plaza right now. Yes. It was very high end, and it had more celebrities square inch than you can shake a stick at. I mean, Bianca Jagger. My first client I did in New York City was Salvatore Dali. So you imagine, I cut Salvatore Dali's hair. Wow. And he was my first client in Manhattan. That's how I started my career off with Salvatore Dali. He was the first guy I cut, and then subsequently, you know, my career started to work, and then I started to work. I always wanted to do magazines, you know, and there was a guy named DDA and another hairdresser named Howard Fugler, and I used to watch their work, and I admired it a lot. And then my first gig that I get in a magazine is with American Vogue. Oh, wow. Now, I was living with Janice Dickinson. Yes. I mean, I have hundreds of stories, but I was living with Janice, and Jan was working for Vogue, and Janice sent Polly Mellon, an editor from Vogue, in for me to cut her hair. And I cut Polly's hair, which is still the signature haircut that she wears even up until now. She's in her mid-80s, and she still has that same haircut I cut on her back then. So she started to come in, and she booked me the very next day with Irving Penn. So listen to the names I'm saying. So awesome. My first editorial was with Irving Penn and American Vogue. That's how I started my career. And I had worked with Vogue more than 40 years. Wow. You know, doing shoots and different projects with them. I mean, we did, you know, a lot of times we did the hair for the benefit at the museum of at the Met Museum, you know, for that we would do all of that with Vogue. And so we were always, I always worked with Vogue. So my eye was really groomed by American Vogue. Dry cutting, I had a grandfather who was a designer, clothing designer. And he used to always tell me, look at the way fabric drapes and so on and so on. So I was on set, and I didn't like the way the model's haircut was. So I grabbed a scissor, and I came on set, and her hair was dry, and I cut her hair dry. I said, you know, it's something, this cuts so much better. It's better to cut hair dry, and I started to cut hair dry. Yeah, well, you start out with it being wet, right? And then you finish it at No. It's wet. Yes, we blow it out. Oh, and then you cut it. Then I cut it. Wow. The only time I will cut anything that's wet is maybe a page boy line in the very beginning. Yeah. With any kind of layering or anything else, all done dry. What do you think it takes to run a successful salon? Well, something, I stand on the shoulder of giants, of other people that I had watched them do successful salons like San Andres and then Xavier, who was my mentor in the city. He was a wonderful man. I have to mention Xavier because he was my mentor.
Yeah.
He taught me about art, and he taught me about shootings, and he taught me about fashion and history of fashion. You have to first understand, first as a technician and then as a hairdresser, you really have to understand the history of hair and the history of fashion to be able to style up to the level I style at. So you need to have that as a background underneath you.
Right.
And then when you have that kind of understanding, when you first come into a salon, like I talked about the police before, you have to learn how to be a boss.
Right.
And that's hard sometimes because people get into conflicts with each other because people are people.
Yeah.
And some workers get along with each other, and some workers don't get along with each other. You'll have conflicts with clients or this or that, things that go on. I'll talk about the actual business end in a second.
Right.
But the personality end, you have to have a big enough personality to be able to have people follow you. And you have to have the goods. You have to be the real deal. So, I've been a mentor to hundreds and hundreds of hairdressers I trained over the, believe me, when I say hundreds, I mean hundreds of people I've trained and influenced over the years.
Yes.
That have gone on to fantastic careers, big careers, in doing shoots or in owning their own salons, so on and so on. And, there's a heritage and there's a history to that. So, we have always have beautiful photographs, that are hung in the salon. And I've worked with Helmut Newton, Guy Bourdin, Hans Feuer, Avedon Penn. And one of the greatest photographers that I worked with was a woman named Deborah Turbeville. And Deborah was the first photographer to do distressed backgrounds in her work. So prior to Deborah, everybody used to shoot very clean.
Right.
And when Deborah shot abandoned buildings collapsing and falling down and all this kind of thing, and she was an amazing art photographer, and I worked with her for a good 45 years.
Right.
She passed a couple of years back, which I sorely missed. She's sort of like my John Lennon left. She was very, very intellectually bright woman. She was an editor at magazines for a while, and then she turned into a photographer. And she was amazing, and I had a wonderful relationship with her and being able to work doing all that. So going back to the original question, what does it take to run a great salon? First of all, you have to have something to offer. You have to be a leader, and you have to be really technically good at what you do. Right? That's all part of it. But then the second part of it is the business end.
Yeah.
And I was always fortunate enough to have a great partner named Roxana Pintilli. And Roxana has been my partner for 30 years. She originally started with me in the very beginning. She was doing nails. And I just had an intellectual feeling about her that she had an innate business sense. And I was absolutely 100% correct on that. And she worked with Scavullo. She did shoots too. I mean, she managed to do some great things. And she took over the back end of the business, which left me able to run the front end of the business. And at that point, it was Joel Warren, my partner Joel, and myself. And Joel and I, between the two of us and Roxana, built Warren Tricomi. And we did one salon at a time and just took the next step and the next step and the next step and just added more salons on as we grew. You have to have guts to grow like that.
Yeah.
And we did tons of TV. We had a TV show called Salon Diaries. You should look it up on YouTube.
Okay.
And it'll give you a great insight of how the salon was run or being run back in the 90s, or early 2000s. It's just a wonderful slice of life thing, which for Bravo. It was the #1 rated show on Bravo. It did very, very, very well. So my partner, Roxana, really handles the back end of it.
Right.
She deals with all the contracts. She deals with the insurance company. She deals with the tax people. She deals with the accountants. I oversee that with her on an owner level, right? But I don't do the day-to-day to it. So I don't have to deal with that kind of day-to-day type of thing, even though I do things, that she says, listen, you got to take care of this, you got to take care of,
right,
which is all fine. So basically my end of it is the creative end, which allows me to be the creative.
Yeah.
So it's like being an actor or being a rock star. You know, you have the band and you have management. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so the combination really worked out very well.
You have a nice team of people that you work with.
Wonderful.
Wonderful
Great.
people. And you know what I like about your salon? You have specialists. So one guy does a nice haircut. The other guy specializes in hair color. And, you know, I like that because, you know.
We had a departmental for a long time.
Yeah.
We're stopped. It's because of COVID. We stopped the departmentalizing, doing that. We allow some people to do color and cuts just to help out.
Right.
And it's sort of moving towards that more. But I also love, you know, we have eyebrow specialists. We had a medical spa. We had people doing Botox and all of these things. We had a medical spa portion of the salon.
Yeah.
I've always introduced new services, and we have, like for hair loss, we have the capulous cap. We have special products from Vinay Futura that really work wonderful for hair loss. So anything that's new and cutting edge, we're either innovating it and creating it ourselves, or we're finding the best stuff out there and bringing it in. So our clients are always introduced to wonderful, new, and inventive things.
Yes. Yes.
Even the way the salons are curated and done. You know, being a musician, right? It's all about, ready? Sight, sound, feel, smell, taste.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so the music that's played in the salon is completely curated. It's, you know, it's a complete genre mix of jazz, rock, roll, classical, hip hop, R&B, reggae, blah blah blah, all mixed together.
Right.
Some old school, some new school. Then you have the what the salons look like, and I've designed, I think, some of the most beautiful salons in the world.
So gorgeous.
Hands down. I mean, I've never seen anybody's salons look like my salons. They're very, very well curated in that respect. I mean, everything's studied, the way the desk looks, the way your station looks, how many products you have in the station, what you know, what it smells like. So we even have smell machines inside, the certain scent, so you don't, you know, smell like, you know, I don't know, like an egg smell from perms or things that go on.
Right.
There's always something pleasant in the atmosphere of the way the scent is. And then you have the lighting and everything else that's done. So when you walk in, you're enveloped into a complete experience, you know, which takes you away to another land.
So let's talk about Fashion Week. You do it every year. You've been involved with that every year. Valentino, Ungaro.
50 years.
50 years.
50 years.
Wow.
50 years of doing it.
What is that process like, Edward?
Well, I mean, you know, I mean, I've worked with the biggest designers in the world. I've worked with Dior. I even met Coco Chanel back in the very early 70s, in the early beginning of my career. You collaborate with the designer, right? The designer has a collection. He'll tell you, you know, I think the hair maybe should be pulled back, or I think the hair should be like this, or I'll come up with an idea along with him. It's a collaboration.
Yeah.
And then I'm set off to create that look, right? On 20 to 30 girls, you know, in 2 hours.
Wow.
Or 3 hours. So you have to have a really good team. They have to be well versed in knowing how to pin hair and do hair. And you have to be fast.
Yeah.
You know, to get 30 girls ready for a show within 2 to 3 hours, you have to be really fast. So, you know, I can go through those type of heads in like 10, 15 minutes each girl, and knock it out.
Yeah.
So you have to be really good. So the designers, when I worked for Ungaro, I'll tell you a story.
Sure.
I was in Paris, and we were doing the shooting aspect for him for his ads, and I thought the girls needed hats. So I went into his closet and I got material, and I cut up the material, and I had my friend from London come over. I never forget it. She came over and she could sew. So I said, I'll design them, and I put wire in the hats and all this stuff, and she sewed them together for me. And I put them on the girls and twisted them and put them together. And you can see the stuff. You look up my portfolio on my website, warrentricomi.com. My portfolio is there.
Yes.
And you'll see those incredible shaped hats I made. And Garo went crazy for them. He actually copied the hats. So how did I know how to do that? Because when I was a kid, my grandfather was a clothing designer. And there was always material around. And what did you do with the material? You made hats out of it and fooled around with it, So it was always something in your hands. Anyway. So
you come from an Italian background, is that right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Crazy. Out of the mind. Crazy. I grew up in a crazy house. Trust.
So being in this industry, you deal with a lot of different personalities. How do you stay humble? And how do you let people know, not to talk to you in certain ways? Because you deal with so many big personalities and egos, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, you can't stop people talking to you the way they want to talk to you. I mean,
Sure.
Listen to me. I was fortunate enough to be able to hang out with Paul McCartney in St. Bart's 2 Christmases ago, right? And I spent a week with him actually, and Paul, you just think about all the people when they meet Paul, they're so freaked out to meet him.
Yeah.
McCartney, and Paul's like totally cool. He's relaxed. I traveled with the Rolling Stones too, and I did a couple of tours with them, and back in the 70s and early 80s, and there was always a hurricane around the Stones, but in the center of it was always calm.
Sure.
So everybody was crazy around us, and we were in that center of that storm. And people sometimes when they meet a celebrity or somebody, they get tongue-tied or they get nervous and they say sort of crazy things. It happens. So you have to be gracious, and I'm always gracious, and I'll always go the extra mile for somebody. So when I have, people that are sort of a little bit tongue shy with me when they first meet me, I always been very gracious. Paul's the same way. Same with Mick. Same with Keith. Same with all of them. You learn that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You learn on the job. And then adversarial people that are listen. I'm very cool. You know what I mean? And I'm fair.
Yes, you are.
I cut the cake even.
Yeah.
And I say it like it is. When you're from Brooklyn, you just say it like it is.
Yes.
I say it like it is.
We lose a lot of people.
We'll come in, dressed not properly, right? And I always say, listen, imagine you go to see The Lion King, and the lion, you know what? I don't feel like putting the costume on today. And you know what? I'm going to put a bottle of water, smoke a cigarette on stage. That's going to look real. I said, when you walk into the salon, you're on stage.
That's right.
And you have to be, it's a performance that you're giving. And you have to be great at it. Nick always says, they ask Nick, what do you do before you go on stage? And he always says, he goes, I have to do a good job. And then they ask Keith, and Keith says, I have to wake up. But that's Keith, that
guy will be waking up in 100 years from now.
That's what he said. Yeah, but that's what he said. So you have to be gracious to people, and psychologically, after you get a lot of experience of dealing with hundreds. Listen to me. I see on an average day about 200 people.
Yeah.
1,000 people a week. Listen to these numbers. Most people say that at a death they maybe interact with 6 or 8 people.
Yeah.
I'm seeing 200 people a day I'm interacting with, right? So believe me, you get really good at talking and being with people. I love people. I love being social. Yeah. Again, that's why I moved from Brooklyn to Manhattan to have a bigger life.
That's right.
To have a more interesting career. I had an older sister, Pat, and my sister Connie, and they would sneak me into the Brooklyn Fox Theater and into the Apollo on Saturdays. And you're talking 62, 63, 64, like that. And I saw Chuck Berry and Fats Domino and James Brown. I saw all these people play live before the Stones ever saw them.
Wow.
So Keith said to me, the first thing that they did when they flew in to New York is they didn't even put their bags in the hotel. They went straight to the Apollo Theater and caught a show.
Oh,
that's the first thing that they did.
Wow.
They were so enamored. It was like going to church.
Yeah.
So I said, I saw all these groups. Because my sister back in the 50s and 60s, early 60s, I caught them all. I mean, Chuck Berry, Pat Son. I was like face to face with those acts. So as a musician, I had the same basic background that they have.
Of course.
So we have a lot in common, The Stones are a little bit older, 6 or 7 years older than I am. But musically, I am the same age as they are because I had the experience of being even at 8 or 9 years old or 10 years old in those shows.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I had that musical background. So
You look
that's
so,
the thing that we had in common.
for
I'm
the
68.
you look wonderful. I was just going to say for the listeners, you look unbelievable.
You
For
know, I
the
know how to
life.
cheat.
Do you? I do too. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah. I know how to cheat.
God
I always
bless
say
you.
that.
You look so
Thank you.
great. So, you know, you've been a regular on the Tyra Banks show. You were featured on Good Day.
Oh,
I saw
yeah.
you with Rosanna Scotto. How do you like being
Mhm.
interviewed on television? You're always
Oh, I
getting
love it. I
interviewed.
mean, I can tell you a couple funny stories. We were Tyra Banks' glam squad. Joel and I were part of the glam squad. There were 4 people: a makeup artist, a stylist, and Joel and I. And we did hundreds of makeovers with Tyra.
Mhm.
And Tyra was wonderful to work with. I mean, we had so much fun doing those shows. We were flying back and forth to California like twice a month, you know, for a week at a clip. In fact, we were flying so much back there, we bought a house.
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
the corporation bought a house,
Mm.
because we were there so much. We were constantly, after a while, the hotel bill started to get outrageous. So we said, let's just get a house. So we bought a house.
Yeah.
And we were back and forth a lot, and we would play tricks on each other. Like I would take Reese, like in craft, there's always chocolate and things around. So I would take the Reese's paper wrappers and put them in between my teeth. And then when camera would be on Tyra, right,
Mhm.
I would go smile, and it would like look, I had space, and Tyra would go like this, and she'd go, and then she had to remember her line. And, you know, she said, you're always playing jokes on me. We're always playing jokes on
a lot
each
of
other,
fun.
you know?
Yeah.
Like the water gun, I would take the spray bottle and make it a water gun, you know, and she would spray it. And
We had, that's
Oh,
the second time I heard that she's so wonderful to work with. We had Dr. Cooper Lawrence on. Do you know Cooper Lawrence? She was a regular psychologist on the Tyra Banks show.
Yes, I'm sure I ran into her.
Yeah,
You know?
she said she's also
We
wonderful
were
to
always so
work with.
busy backstage doing all those makeovers. We didn't
Yeah.
get a chance. And we had to be fast. Because we would do, in a day, 2 shows.
Hmm.
So we would be there early in the morning. We do the first show. We would have at least about 3 to 4 people to make over.
Hmm.
And they would always find these people that were complete train wrecks, you know, for us to do.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, trust me, you know, it was no longer. I mean, I'm gonna tell you a funny story. I was with Regis Philbin, and
Yeah.
I was doing Kathy and Regis, and they got a guy, and the guy had a beard. I mean, down to like ZZ Top, and hair like this.
Yeah.
And he looked like Rip Van Winkle had woken up, and we were gonna make him over. So the guy came in, and we were working on this guy,
Mhm.
and the stylist went to dress him, and he had no underwear on, this guy.
Oh my God.
Like really crazy guy. So they got him dressed right, and I cut his hair and everything. So when we brought him out, Regis said, that's not a makeover, that's a miracle.
Oh my God.
Regis was very funny. I did his show a bunch of times. I love working with Regis. Yeah, Regis was great. And Kathy. Kathy was wonderful too.
You must have been
And then
sad.
subsequently, I worked with Oder and Kathy when they had their show
Mhm.
on NBC. And not NBC, but is it CBS? No, ABC. Sorry, ABC. And their show was wonderful. And they're great to work. They're fun. You know, we would joke around. We would have a good time. And Rosanna Scotto,
Yes.
you know, is also a lot of fun.
Yeah, she is. I met her. Yeah.
Yeah. She's a lot of fun.
You're a big hit in Japan. Last time I saw you, I came to your
yeah,
salon.
crazy.
They love you in Japan. That's awesome.
We would have tour buses. I'm serious when I tell you this. Like 30 people come walk through the salon like if they were on tour.
Oh my God.
You know,
How did that happen, Edward?
Well, I have Japanese stylists that work with me.
Yes.
And then the word got back to Japan that they were working at a salon called, you know, Edward Tricomi.
Mm-hmm.
This is even early on. And then people would come to see this one because one of the first salons that we built was on 57th Street. That was such a unique looking salon.
Right.
All the chairs were draped in fabric. It was huge gold mirrors. In fact, when you go to the YouTube channel and look up Salon Diaries, you'll see the old salon. That old salon doesn't exist anymore, but it was the most wonderful salon ever that I ever created. And what's so unique about that salon is that you felt like you were in an old temple somewhere or Moroccan Arabic, you know, country, and it was very exotic and it was a lot of fun. It didn't look like a salon. It was unique looking. So people started, and subsequently, the Japanese started to come.
Yeah.
Before a lot of them came, and then we were asked to franchise to Japan, which we did. We have 3 salons in Japan, 2 in Tokyo, and 1 in Osaka. And then we have 14 in India. So they put 14, and those are all franchises. We don't actually own them, but they pay us a certain thing for the franchise.
Sure.
Which is fine. Yeah, which is fine.
That's awesome. You have your own products, is that right? You sell your own products in the salon?
We've always had products, and One Tricomi's products are unique to what they are because I invented them, and I have a great understanding of how to do hair and what hair needs. So I created a really unique line of products. They're very well done. They're done with the best ingredients and the best systems and putting these things together. And like I have argan oil and anti-frizz cream, and you can mix the 2 together, it comes something else. So I teach how to play with the products and that, and I have one of the best hairsprays on the market. My hairspray is the best. Why? Because when you spray it on the light holds hairspray, you're allowed to change your mind with it. It doesn't make your hair so stiff that you can't get a brush through it. So you can change your mind, because that's the experience you have when you work on set. When you're working, because your girl might turn this way, you might have to flip the hair that way, or you might have to flip the hair. So you have to figure out. So you have to be able to change your mind. And then I have one called Super Hold that's so strong you can work in a construction site. I did a shoot with a girl named Jessica, who's a Asian girl, big following on social media, and she does these fashion shows all over the world. And I did a show with her at Kennedy Airport. This is not crazy. On the tarmac with a big jet.
I saw that photo.
And it's crazy, right? And the theme, she always wants these crazy hairdos. She says, "I want the craziest hairdo you can make for me." So she wanted everybody's done braids on her. Like the last 6 things that she did were all braid. I said, it's boring. I said, it's got no fashion edge to it, really. So I said, okay. So what I did is I made the hair sort of sweep and move in a certain way, almost very linear. And then I took birds, stuffed birds, not real birds, but fake looking birds, but really with feathers and all of that. And I placed them on the hairstyle. And that tied in flight.
So creative.
At the airport flight, and that tied it in.
So creative.
And that's how so that was a unique. So, and that Super Hold hairspray held up on that tarmac in the rain, because it rained on us.
Wow.
And in the wind, and on a very, very cold, I think it was November, that we were out there shooting this thing. It was crazy.
I love
Early
it.
November.
Tell us about your music. Where does it take you when you play, Edward?
Well, I mean, I've been playing since I'm 6 years old. And I started with drums, and as I got older, I started learning how to play guitar. I was in many, many different bands, as a kid. I met the Beatles in 1966 backstage at Shea Stadium because my manager worked with Sid Bernstein. And we got tickets, and we were able, as 14-year-old kids, that they were 13 or 14, and meeting the Beatles back in '66, which was an amazing thing.
Yes.
In '69, I went to Woodstock. I mean, music is they talk about like Jay Leno, being a talk show host.
Yes.
Jay Leno is not a talk show host. Jay Leno is a mechanic.
What is that about?
He's a mechanic.
Yeah.
He's a mechanic because he loves cars. That's who he really is.
Right.
He does the talk show host and being a comedian,
right.
But he's really a mechanic.
Right.
I'm really a musician. I'm a hairstylist, and I love it, and I do all that. Yeah, it's great, but I'm really a musician.
Yeah.
So.
You like rock and roll and all that, right? You do all your.
I love all kinds of music. Brazilian rock, rap. This. I mean, if it's good, it's good. Classical. I mean, we listen to a lot of classical at home.
I do too.
But when I play, I'm playing rock and roll.
Do you play with your son? Does your son play?
My son plays a little bit of guitar. He's learned a little bit of guitar. Yep. But not to the extent I do. Yeah. I mean, I have over 20 guitars. I have a Les Paul. I have 3 or 4 Fenders. I have Gibsons. I have acoustic tailors. I have all kinds of guitars.
Love
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
God bless.
yeah. They're beauties. They're beauties.
I'm
Excellent.
sure. I'm sure they are. Let's talk about the event that's coming up Monday,
Okay.
October 19th. This is BCA in the fight against breast cancer. And do you do this
Right.
every year?
Yeah, we've done it every year for 18 years. Yeah.
This is so wonderful. And special guest actress Kate Walsh, who her mother had breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, my wife had it, so I went to my wife.
Oh, God
And
bless.
yeah, and she's fine, thank God.
Thank God.
So, you know, my sister had it, and she didn't do so well. She passed from it.
Sorry.
So it's something that I know about, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's close to home. I'm very spiritually minded, very progressively spiritually minded.
Yeah.
So it's called the flow. You have to give to get back.
That's right.
You know, and I also tell people, you know, I'm sort of like Oda in a sense of giving spiritual advice to my team and things. I mix things a lot of times with spiritual advice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's called the flow. Or here's another one. You know, I always say, I said, art is this,
Mm-hmm.
shadow is the money.
Mm-hmm.
The shadow always follow the money. You chase the shadow,
Mm-hmm.
you'll never get the art.
That's right. I totally agree.
Those are, I always have these sort of, you know, sayings that I come up with and use in teaching, even when I teach hairdressing or teach anything.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So yeah, so I've done these shows for about 18 years.
Yeah, we're gonna
And
give
then
some
many other things. We've done tons of. Warren Tricomi, one year, I'm gonna tell you a funny story. My accountant called me up and he said, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, "What are you talking?" He said, I'm gonna give you a number. You gave over $600,000 worth of charity away 1 year. You said, "You got to slow down."
Yeah, you're definitely a giver.
I mean,
yeah.
we gave here every time somebody would ask us for, you know, for a raffle for their school, you know, or there was, you know, a fundraiser. I mean, we raised money for AIDS in the very beginning before people, you know, didn't want to know anything about it. We did a lot of shows for AIDS. We would put on these big fashion shows and hair shows.
Yeah.
At the Palladium, and we get all these people together and put these shows on. And that's the first time I ever did set Edward Scissorhands on stage. I did it for a show.
Yes.
And what was, everybody had like 10 models and all this. I came with one girl and myself. And because I'm a musician,
Yeah.
I choreographed the lighting with strobes. So I had strobes on the bottom, strobes on top. As the strobes are striking, as it's really building,
Yes.
your hands are moving, so it looks like you're in slow motion, and what you see is hair flying. And I'm cutting hair. I'm actually really cutting hair. And what that technique is about is called abstract layers.
Yes.
So anything in nature that's natural is in abstract. So if you look at a tree, it doesn't grow evenly. It grows, you know, a little here, a little there, a little there.
Right.
That's abstract. That makes things look natural. So at the end of a haircut, I would add abstract layers. So I took that whole premise of doing that and I turned it into a show because I play drums. So I'm very good with my hands.
Yes.
And I coordinated the lights because I knew about music and lighting, right? And I put it all together and I created a show. They screamed so much. I heard them on the third floor. Freaked out. The very first time I ever did it. It was really amazing.
Now, Warren and Tricomi, they're so nice. He's such a giver, Mr. Edward here. He's going to give a $100 gift card to our listeners and 10% off for online products. Please head over to their Instagram, Warren Tricomi on Instagram. Comment on their last post with hashtag making a difference. And thank you so much. What do you want your legacy to be, Edward?
I can't answer that question. That's up to other people to really, you know, tune into that. I mean, I just hope people, you know, say, you know, wow. I know from people who I've trained and said to me, listen, thank you very much. I would have never gotten that type of training anywhere.
Yeah.
So people are very, very grateful for the, you know, for the fact that I am so giving to them and being able to do this. And it's my pleasure to do that because, you know, again, like I said, it's part of the flow. You give, you get back, and it all flows around. It's part of the universal thinking, the way it works.
I want to thank you
know?
so much. I want to thank you for giving me my first glamorous haircut at 19. You really made a
Yeah.
difference in my life. I mean, I want you to
Oh,
know
I'm
that. You've
glad.
always stuck in my head. I mean, here we are 21 years later. I've put you
Right.
in a couple of magazines, and now I have you on here. I wanted to do this because I'm so happy and I'm so proud to, throughout these years, just keep coming in
Right.
contact with you. So thank you for everything that you do. And
You're
please head
welcome.
over to Warren and Tricomi Salon. They are unbelievable people, very professional, kind, loving, and we thank you so much, Edward.
And it's been really great seeing you. I hope I see you in person soon.
I will see
Hope
you
this
definitely.
this pandemic gets over quickly, and we're able to go back to our normal lives.
Yeah,
You know.
I hope
But
so.
until then, I will see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye, love. Bye.
Bye. To join or donate BCA in the fight against breast cancer, go to bidpal.net/BCA Luncheon 2020.com. Please head over to warrentricomi.com, click on products, and get 10% off with the promo code Making a Difference. That's www.warrentricomi.com.
Making a Difference is sponsored by Preferred Health Magazine. Please visit www.preferredhealthmagazine.com today and subscribe.